In sport, science and technology make winners. But once used, those tools take over. They shape the sports themselves. This man's only chance of success now lies with technology, and this one can't afford to stop using it. His sport risks being driven by it, and her generation has become its slave. In 1972, an average Olympic gymnast was 18 years old, 5 foot 2 inches tall and weighed 7.5 stone. Today, she is 2 years younger, 5 inches shorter and has lost over 1.5 stone in weight. That change has been driven by the equipment.
The equipment has changed to allow the gymnast to perform with greater degree of safety so that they can go higher, faster and perform more complex moves.
Small bodies are naturally good for gymnastics. They have fast reactions and are very agile.
I do enjoy watching Zita. I'm very proud of her. And I suppose it's like my hobby, really.
Most changes to the equipment have been aimed at making it safer and more efficient for small girls to use, and at shaping it for their bodies.
I think probably the biggest change on the asymmetric bars has been the bar rail itself. This has got much smaller in diameter, which allows the gymnast to rotate around the bar with far greater ease.
Close your shoulder, close your shoulder. Small children have small hands, so holding on to a smaller bar is easier, and the more pliable it is, the more springy it is, helps them to do the more complex circling and somersault movements.
But just being able to use the equipment doesn't make a great gymnast. That takes practice.
The beam has changed from a solid wooden beam to a upholstered padded beam, which has a shock absorber between the base of the beam body and the legs. This allows the gymnast to train far safer and for much longer.
With the new equipment, children can train longer without injury, so they get better younger. Their bodies are still small when they are good enough to compete. Small bodies can naturally do more complex moves, and the equipment gives them a chance. And when one person learns a complex move, everyone has to. Soon, only small bodies can compete, and no longer is small size an advantage. It's essential.
All sports are different, and gymnastics is a children's sport. To be world class, you have to have a very light body weight, to be a very small child, and the sport has developed so that it's for girls who are under 17 usually.
One of Britain's most talented gymnasts, Zita Lusack, is nearly 17. She's getting too old.
If you start to put on weight and become what we would call, in gymnastics terms, fat, which could be normal for a teenager, then that puts more strain on the joints and is just more difficult and becomes impossible.
Zita is 5 feet tall. She's lighter than a normal girl of her age, but for gymnastics, she's overweight.
How much do you weigh?
About 7'2".
7 stone 2. How do you feel about that?
I feel fat.
For a gymnast, the trials of international sport and of adolescence come simultaneously. The age range most physically able to do the sport are mentally the least well equipped.
Well, Zita's been very hard work at times, because when her training's not going very well, she becomes depressed and negative and moody, so it's very difficult to motivate and inspire her when she's like that.
I find her mood swings really hard work because she has a lot to cope with at the level she's training at, the hours she puts in here.
I've got the British teams competition, which you do for your club, and the next day I've got all my GCSEs. I'm going to have to revise on the way home or something during the competition.
You can study when you're 60. You can do an Open University degree, you can go back and do a GCSE, whatever age you are. You can't be a gymnast once you've turned 18, really. One can argue that it is a shame that there is such a narrow field and you can only be a top gymnast between the ages of 13 and 17, but it's been determined by the complexity of the sport, and so if we want to try and keep up with the rest of the world, we have to follow